I want a regular flipper tab on my knife. I want a front flipper tab. If only there was a way to make both groups of people happy. The good news is that today Remette is addressing the angst, the anguish, the desire of the people to have a flipper tab their way. Let's go ahead and talk about the brand new Remette Two-Face. Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in, and if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and today we got a new one, and it's not just a new Remette knife. This is also, at least as far as I'm aware, the first time that Remette has collaborated with a known outside knife designer on what is honestly a really cool knife. This is the brand new Remette and Osho Designs Two-Face. And you know what? I first saw this knife teased by another influencer right before Blade Show, and I saw that and I said, you know, I've got to check this. I've got to check this out. I was immediately drawn to this knife for a couple different reasons. But first of all, thank you, Remette, for sending this in to be reviewed on my table. I am excited to be one of the first to do a full tabletop review of this knife and to give you my true, honest thoughts and opinions. And you know, Remette really does deserve all the kudos because they have come a very long ways in the last couple of years. They are making some truly premium knives that are excelling. They are rapidly gaining in popularity. And honestly, it's really easy to see why. Now, this knife has a lot going for it, and if you don't look closely, you might miss it. You might get distracted by the fact that we've got a gorgeous compound dual ground blade right here in M390, or maybe you might be distracted by these really well done 3D milled and contoured titanium handle scales that have this very light purple anodizing and this really good stone wash. Or maybe you might get distracted by this full body length backspacer that has some subtle jimping here near the spine for a perfect reverse grip. You might miss the fact that it has thumb studs that act as external stop pins, and because you can't see inside it, you might also miss that this, by the way, also has internal stop pins that are garaged. That's right. There is no floating stop pin here to worry about. There is absolutely no gaps in the back of the knife. It's not an open face design, and it's got some really nice, deeply pocketed milling. And oh man, I might have just gone through the whole spec sheet, but in case you're wondering, it's about 7.8 inches overall with 3 inches of cutting edge. If you count the rest of the blade, it's about 3.5 inches. It's a full-size knife, guys, and it's got multiple deployment options. On the deployment, we've got thumb studs, you've got the flipper tab, you've got this deployment fuller, and some of you guys might be looking at that going, oh man, I wish that it was a front flipper. Oh, draw your gaze to that. You see that little spot right there? Yeah, that is, in fact, a little filler screw. It's a little thread protector. And if you take, I want to say it's either a T4 or a T5 Torx, you can actually take that out. And you might be wondering, dude, why? I mean, like, why would you take that out? Why did they even put that there in the first place? And, you know, maybe you have known about this knife, but in case you haven't, the reason why it's called the Two-Face is not just a direct quote to the Batman series. No, it's so that you can actually take off this flipper tab. You might notice the little seam right there on the flipper tab. Check that out. It's very subtle, but it's there. You can actually remove the flipper tab and make this a front flipper knife. And you know what? I've been carrying this knife like this in the front flipper position primarily. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and just flip that around. And you know what? We're not going to make a big deal out of it because, you know, it's just one of those things. I prefer front flipper. Maybe you prefer a rear flipper. Let me know in the comments section. Front flipper, rear flipper. What are you rocking? Do you have a preference? I have a preference. I do prefer front flippers over rear flippers. Yeah, that's nice. I prefer front flippers over rear flippers for a few reasons. The first reason is that it gets the flipper tab out of the way of your finger choil, so you get a nice full 4-finger grip. And even if you don't do that, even if you don't choke up, you could still get a nice full 4-finger grip, but it's nice if you like to choke up. And that's enabled by all of this jimping here on the spine of this blade. It's kind of a harpoon spear point blade. Yeah, we've got a deep hollow grind here in the back, and then a tall flat grind here at the front, followed up by this harpoon swedge right here to help keep it super slicey, no matter where you're cutting at. But that tip is very, very slicey. Normally the lefties are like, yeah, just, come back when you've got a knife that has a reversible clip. This has a reversible clip, guys. And then more people might be saying, yeah, well, I bet, it's probably got T6 body screws. Nah, look at that. T8 hardware all the way around. And that hardware is nicely framed on the edges of those contoured scales. And when I mention contouring, I mean this kind of rounding that happens. And you can only get that from doing 3D milling. Slab style handle scales are never as ergonomic. They're never as comfortable in the hand as contoured scales like this because there's no rounding. They're just flat angular pieces, right? Well, in this case, we have contouring. Oh yeah, they did in fact remember the lanyard folk, all 5 of them. You could put a lanyard on here and not at the expense of poking a hole in these otherwise beautiful handle scales. Now, I want to mention this because I know somebody's going to say, I just don't like purple stonewash. I'd rather have black. I'd rather have gray for my monotone carry. Like, you don't understand. Guys, they're going to have both black and the regular gray, silver, plain Jane, whatever you want to call it. They're going to have that available. And as far as I'm aware, these are available at the time of posting this video. So feel free to check the description. It took a few days for the detent to, in fact, wear in. Oh, man. But it is a nice stiff detent on here. And that is something to notice because if you do put too much pressure on the lock bar, just like with a Chavez or with any other knife, that has a frame lock, if you put too much pressure on it, you'll notice specifically on the thumb studs. But honestly, I just don't have a problem. The knife is all titanium and it's all blade and it's, almost 8 inches long. So you might, be expecting a 5-ounce knife, but thanks to all of this pocketed milling, it's actually 4.5 ounces, which I think is rather fair for a knife of this pedigree. Also, just like with Chris Reeve knives, it has a reversed lock bar relief cutout. And they do that so that when you go to put this in and out of the pocket, you don't have anything snagging on your jeans. The lock bar relief cutout always has an opportunity to snag on something if it's done, facing the pocket clip. So in this case, there's no issue. And that's only aided by the fact that this is a ball bearing clip. I really like that. Something else which is evident in this design is that we have a groove cut into the backspacer, which means that you can tell 100% when this knife is centered. And that's brave because a lot of knife companies get really close on the blade centering, but they don't quite nail it, but they get close enough for government work. And the rest of us just say, you know what? It's close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades. But when you cut a groove into that backspacer, you are literally saying, test it out, see for yourself, and boom, perfectly centered. The quality of life here is good. There's no wiggle, there's no jiggle, and there honestly shouldn't be. This is a $250 knife at the time of posting this video because it's on sale. $250 for a full titanium knife, M390 blade, and they're shooting for 60 to 62 on that Rockwell target, which is great. 60 to 62 is what I want to see. I'm happy with M390 in that range. My favorite way to deploy this knife is with the deployment fuller. I mean, look at it. This is the two-face. It focuses on a reversible flipper. Have it your way. And here I am like, yeah, deployment fuller. But listen, it really is a nice secondary option. And I love the fact that I can take it off the back and put it on the front because it doesn't get in the way of the ergos right here. You're not left wondering, oh, should I get a flipper tab delete? Just delete it yourself. And I mean, technically, if you don't want a front flipper or a rear flipper, if you're one of those guys that says, you know what, I just want to use the thumb studs. I just want to use the thumb studs. Get off my lawn. You could take it off entirely and it'll still function without the flipper tab at all. But honestly, it's really, really snappy as a front flipper. The detent is a bit heavy. Normally with front flippers, you see a lighter detent because the companies just want to make sure people can do things like the over the top and the reach around 5,000. But that's not me. That's not me. I just do the regular, bam. It has multi-row bearings, or at least dual row bearings. And it's very, very controlled. It will drop right there. Give it a little shake, just a little bit, and it'll go all the way into its home. There is two things that I don't like about this knife. They're not deal breakers by any stretch. I think that this is possibly the best knife that Remette has released all year long. But there are still two things that I'm going to complain about. The first is the lack of a single-sided captive pivot. I have had the opportunity to check out many Remette knives, and they don't generally miss on this. Generally speaking, we get a single-sided captive pivot, which makes me wonder if maybe the fact that we don't have one is due to Osho Designs influence. I don't know, but I don't like free spinning double-sided pivots. It's just a pain in the rear whenever you want to take this apart. The second thing that I'm not a huge fan of on here is the fact that in order to really get the most out of its namesake, you have to, in fact, get a T4 or T5, I'm not sure which one this is, Torx, and it's very tiny for this tiny little filler screw thing. So they could have done one of two things and they did neither. First thing they could have done is include a tool. This did not come with this knife. If you buy this knife, you will not get a tool. In order to switch that out, you'll need either a T4 or a T5 Torx. Just expect that. The other thing they could have done is just made that a Phillips head, but they didn't. I think that they nailed this on all of the important fronts. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. What do you think of the brand new Remette Two-Face? Are you going to pick one up, or is this going to be a pass for you? Let's have that discussion down below. If you watched this far and you enjoyed the commentary, please feel free to hit the subscribe button that's about to pop up. Otherwise, if you just want to watch some more awesome knife and EDC content, feel free to click on one of the videos that pops up next.